What's good, y'all, man? We are back here with another video, man. Like I told y'all in my last video, that was the last time you was going to see that setup. This is the new setup. I kind of moved my desk over to the other side of the room. Got some lights. I'm not going to turn them on now because also I realized I need a camera because the lights don't really look that good with this MacBook camera. So if you got any recommendations for a camera, let me know down below in the comments. This video I recorded, I already recorded it once. I recorded 3 videos last night, but I was so tired. I kept stuttering. The view, they looked terrible. Yeah, I didn't get my points across like I wanted to. So I'm just gonna record all of them again. So you're gonna see the same hoodie, same me. So don't worry about that. But also I want to say shout out to y'all and shout out to my boy Benzo. Over these last couple weeks, I've been super motivated, and one is because I felt like I always had good content. I just needed the thumbnails to grab the attention of the audience, and now that I'm seeing all my views going up and getting more subscribers, it just got me mad motivated just to get better. So shout out to y'all, shout out to my thumbnail maker, and let's just get straight into this one. So I got 3 teams I'm gonna talk about, and I guess I could start off with the Philadelphia 76ers. And with this one, this was actually a confusing video for me as far as like what I was going to talk about, because I don't really know what to expect. Looking at the team, they look nice. Like if we go back to the offseason, James Harden took $10 million less that he was deserved of, and he did that so they can go out there and grab more pieces. Because even though he didn't really get a full season with Joel, he knows even though that team was just not good enough to compete, so he knew that they had to get better. So he took less money. They get PJ Tucker, and I love that addition. Just when we look at that addition, that is so powerful, because when we look at the Heat right now, a lot of people having the Heat fall, but they only lost one person. That was PJ Tucker. So now you're adding him to this Philadelphia 76ers team, which they've always had this identity of the process, but they never really had that like junkyard dog that would do anything they need for them to win. And I think you're getting that in PJ Tucker. And he can become the heart of this team. And he just feels like a Philly guy. So I feel like he's going to fit perfectly, especially in that starting lineup, because you can't play Matisse because he can't shoot at all. His defense is amazing, but when you're getting a guy like PJ Tucker who can shoot and also plays amazing defense, you have to start him. So that was a really good addition. And then last year they showed us they can kind of revive somebody's career, and they did that with Andre Drummond. He looked really good in his backup role. I didn't like the signing when they first did it, but he looked really good in that backup role. And now you're getting an even better player in Montrezl Harrell. I think that's going to help out a lot, especially when coming off the bench. His scoring is going to be really good for them coming off the bench, because they didn't really have a consistent scorer off the bench. I think their most consistent scorer was Shake Milton, and he was in and out of the lineup. So that's going to be really good for them. Then you wrap that up with Daniel House. That's a decent signing. So they're basically getting like the 2018 Rockets. And hey, that's a little bit weird because you also have Daryl Morey and James Harden. But I see what they did there. I'm not mad at it. But those are some really good signings. Then when you're looking at this team as a whole, this is the year. Like, this is their last year. This team can compete for a championship. They don't really have no flaws. They have 2 superstars. They have 2 all-star caliber players right next to them. And they have decent surrounding pieces with a decent coach. This has to be the year. Breaking down the all-star surrounding pieces that I said, Tobias Harris, he's always been an all-star caliber player. He just always been in a conference where they would just stack at his position. So he's probably never going to get that all-star nod, but he's as consistent as he gets in the regular season, of course, just like his counterparts. But he's going to be really good for them this year. I just feel like he's out of position. But then when we're looking at later in the year, I wouldn't be surprised if he's on a different team. This is his last year on his last contract. And he's going to have a lot of people wanting to bring him onto his team, because it's a lot more than Tobias Harris. He was just put in a role, and he's been playing their role pretty decent. But I think it's a lot more than Tobias Harris that we can see. And I think he's definitely going to get a lot of trade attention coming around that trade deadline, because I don't think they want to lose him for nothing. Because I think this is for sure his last year on this team. And then when you're looking at Tyrese Maxey, I was about to say Tyrese Halliburton. Tyrese Maxey, over the summer, I became a huge fan just watching film, because I'm noticing in his game is not really a flaw. The first probably 30 or 40 games before they traded for James Harden, he was a point guard, and he looked really good in that role. I never really seen him as a point guard. Even in high school, even in college, he didn't really play that point guard position. He was normally the two. I think he played next to Ashton Higgins in college. Yeah, Ashton Higgins was on that team. And then in high school, he was just a scorer on that team. But like last year, in the beginning of the season, he was still getting his buckets, still averaging 17. But he was also playmaking. He looked really good, especially in the games when Joel didn't play. And he just kind of took control of games with playmaking. And that's something I didn't know he had. But now that he has James Harden, he doesn't have to do that. So I think he can go back into his role where he can just straight get buckets. And that's a role that fits him perfectly. And I think off-season training with James Harden, playing with James Harden some last season, you got a full off-season with him. Their chemistry in that backcourt is going to be way better. And I think we're going to see a new and improved Tyrese Maxey where the stats can jump up pretty high. I think he averaged 17 and 5 last year. I don't see that assist number going up, but I can definitely see him out of nowhere averaging 20. Probably won't be an all-star because that guard position is also pretty deep, but I can definitely see a real good season for him, and he might be in the most improved player race. He just might. So I'm actually a really big fan of Tyrese Maxey. And before we get to the top two guys, I want to talk about the bench. You got a steady point guard / shooting guard, Shake Milton. Hopefully we can get something for Furkan Korkmaz this year. Like, he went from being a really good shooter to being terrible. I don't know what to think of it because he has the form, he has everything. I don't know what to think of it. I think he's going to be a really decent player for them this year. Are we going to finally see B-Ball Paul? I know 76ers fans have been asking for that for like the last 2 years, and we haven't seen it. We've seen it in spurts, and I believe he actually got some time in the playoffs. Are we actually going to see that? I don't know what to think of him because I haven't really been paying that much attention to him. I know he was really good in the G League, but when it came to like the big leagues, he didn't really get that much time. So what are we going to see from him? They got Trevelyan Queen. If you don't know what that is, that's the MVP of last year's G League. He's a bucket. I don't think he's going to get a lot of playing time, but he's a bucket. Like, if they need it, he can get that. And then, like I said, you got Montrezl Harrell. So they have a decent bench. It could be deeper. Like, they do need some more wing depth. I'm not really that big on Daniel House and Matisse Thybulle. So, I don't know. I think they need more scoring off that bench unless you're going to rely most of it to be Montrezl Harrell, and then he's probably going to play one of the starters, most likely Tobias Harris. So, the bench is pretty decent. But now, when looking at the top two guys, as a matter of fact, I'm going to say the top three because Doc Rivers has to be in there. They have to be the leaders of this team. What I mean by that is this team is good enough to win the whole thing. If they get out in the second round again, we have to have some conversation because we never really have conversations when it comes to Joel Embiid. I'm a Joel Embiid fan. I remember when I became a fan, it was in 2019 2020 in the bubble. I just felt like he should have dominated that series and he didn't. But that whole year, he had a really good year, and I was like, yo, he has something more to his game. He just has to get rid of these off-court antics. Then he had that baby, and then he just took off. And now he's one of the most dominant forces we have in this league, but when it comes to the playoffs, it's always something that stops him, whether it's the Raptors, whether it's the Heat. Like, it's something that stops him. He gets hurt, or he's just not playing good. He loses to the Hawks, scores 4 points in the second half. Terrible shooting percentages in the fourth quarter. It's something that always stops him, and that can't happen this year. Like, y'all have the team, and this is probably the last year y'all going to have the team, because if not, y'all have to make some changes if y'all lose in the second round again, because this keeps happening, and the team overall keeps getting better, but y'all not able to give over that hump. And a lot of that is because of Joel Embiid, and you paired it up with James Harden, who is also not been able to get over the hump. We have to start having some conversations if they lose in the second round again. And Doc Rivers, my conversation that I'm having right now is he's just an overrated coach. Yeah, he's had really good teams. He's won with one of those teams, but he's just an overrated coach. I don't know why he was on that top 15 coach list. Maybe because he has a lot of wins, but overrated coach. But looking at those two guys, they have to be the leader, and they have to take this team over the hump, because they have the team to beat anybody in the East, really. Nobody in the East looks above anybody. What I mean by that is no real dominant force. Of course, The Celtics looked dominant last year, but they can lose to the 76ers. The Bucks can lose to the 76ers, and then the Bucks and the Celtics can beat the 76ers. Those are the three contenders in the East to me, and I think they can all beat each other. So the East is wide open. But those two guys, they have to put that team over the hump. But we're going to have some conversations because the conversation already started, and I said it in my Jason Tatum video, is I'm taking Jason Tatum over Joel Embiid, even though he's not the better player. But what Jason Tatum has done in his tenure with the Celtics in the last 4 or 5 years, leading that team to 3 out of 4 conference finals, making the finals once, beating hella Hall of Famers, Giannis twice, Kevin Durant, Jimmy Butler, Kyrie Irving. Like, look at that resume right there. That's why I'm putting him over Joel Embiid, because in the playoffs, he doesn't go back, he goes forward. He steps his game up. That's what I want to see from Joel Embiid in this playoffs. When I'm looking at the team, I'm not paying attention to the regular season. They can go 82-0. I would not give a fuck, because I want to see that playoff success, because they have the team to do it. So that's how I feel about this team. I think their ceiling is a championship, because I think they have all the pieces, but I also think they're floored. Again, it's a second round exit like normal. So let me know how y'all think about the team. I'm a fan of this team. I'm a fan. They got some pieces I like. I think in the trade deadline they can get better. They definitely can get better. There's definitely going to be some pieces floating around. So we'll see. But other than that, man, I'll talk to y'all later. Got 2 more videos to record. Peace out.